How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Hip Drop Podcast. Lucas and I are back, and we are ready. Divisional round weekend is in the books. There were two great games, one very sloppy game, but like somewhat close game until the end, and then one absolute bloodbath this weekend. And the final four is set. The AFC and NFC championships are set. The Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots will face off for the Lamar Hunt Trophy. And we're getting the trilogy. The Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams will finish off Championship Sunday for the George Halas Trophy. That kind of felt inevitable ever since that Week 16 game, that those would be the last two teams standing in the NFC. Um, I was 0 for 2 on the AFC side. I picked the Bills. I picked the Texans. We'll get through all of it. We'll get through all the action of divisional round weekend. Of course, a lot came out of it, including some coaching changes due to a result of one of the games. So Lucas and I will have it all covered, and of course we'll be back tomorrow to actually Thursday rather. We'll be a little bit off schedule this week to look ahead to Championship Sunday and talk about some coaching hires. There have been 4 coaching vacancies filled in New York, Atlanta, Miami, and Tennessee. There's 6 left to go with the McDermott news yesterday, and we'll have that all covered by Thursday. And Lucas and I will keep you all up to date on everything throughout the rest of the offseason and, of course, through the rest of the season, as there's 3 games left to go. But first of all, before we get into any of this, Lucas, how you doing? How you feeling?
I'm doing okay. I was actually on vacation this past weekend, so I couldn't
Mm,
watch a lot of the games live. But the game I actually saw the most of was the Rams Bears game, and unfortunately, my flight took off about 3 minutes before that certain play that happened towards the end of regulation, and
yes, that play.
my flight did not have Wi-Fi, so I literally had no idea what happened until an hour into the flight. The pilot was like, "For anyone who cares, the Rams beat the Bears in overtime, 20-17 on a field goal." So I'm like, "Holy shit, something happened," because it was 17-10. So,
Yeah,
and I
yeah, something certainly
once I
happened. That game is going to be remembered for a very long time. Great game to finish off divisional round weekend. We'll get to that last because that was the last game, but we'll start with probably the most consequential game and probably the most disappointing game if you're obviously a Bills fan for a variety of reasons. The Broncos and the Bills, one of 2 games that went to overtime this weekend. The Broncos win 33-30. They will host the Patriots in the AFC Championship game next on Sunday. This upcoming Sunday. This is the Broncos' first playoff win since defeating the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 50. Obviously, the first time in the conference championship since that 2015 season. Um, we'll get to the Broncos here later on. We're going to actually do a rare thing, not to take anything away from the Broncos, because there's a big storyline coming out of that one, given the news that we learned after the game with Bo Nix. That game might be the epitome of won the battle but lost the war. We shall see. But we're going to start with the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills. A lot of time has passed. It was 3 days ago, so there's been time to like really go over it. That's the kind of the downside of Lucas and I going on Tuesday, is it takes a while for us to recap. But the Buffalo Bills, once again, with Josh Allen in the prime of his career, will not be playing on Super Bowl Sunday. And this to me, I know they were the 6th seed. I know, like, to get to the Super Bowl, they would have to obviously go to Denver and win. And if they won that game, they would have to go to New England and win, which they won there, earlier this year, about a little over a month ago in Week 15, in order to get to Santa Clara. But despite the fact that they were the 6th seed, given how weak the AFC field was this year, it seemed like a very easy path for them, a very straightforward path. The boogeyman of the Chiefs was out. All you need to do is beat a Jaguars team that showed up yesterday, a Broncos team who, kind of lived by the skin of their teeth throughout the season, and then a New England team that I actually think is very, very good, but still a team that won 8 games combined over the last 2 seasons, and they couldn't even get it done. They couldn't even get to the conference championship. Josh Allen and the Bills are now 2-5. Is that correct? No. Yeah, 2-4. 2-4 in the divisional round. Their only 2 wins coming against Baltimore Ravens. They lose to the Chiefs twice. They lose to the Bengals, and now they lose to the Broncos. They have just one road playoff victory in that era. That, of course, came in Jacksonville last week. And this is the game that caused Terry Pegula to say, enough is enough. It's time for a change. And that change was made. Sean McDermott announced yesterday morning out as the Buffalo Bills head coach after 9 seasons, a very successful run. They won 5 division titles in a row. They went to the playoffs 8 of 9 years. They went to 2 AFC Championship games, but ultimately they never won a Super Bowl. They never even got to a Super Bowl. And I think this thought process in the front office and the ownership group for the Bills was, if not now, when. So the Buffalo Bills, there is a new head coach opening. They are one of 6 head coach openings at the moment. They will be looking for a new coach for Josh Allen as he enters his age 30 season after another disappointing end. So Lucas, I honestly look, I know we're Chiefs fans, so we're inclined to hate the Bills, but they were my pick to win it all before the season. They had some ups and downs throughout the regular season. I still stuck with them. I still went with the best quarterback on that side of the bracket, the most experienced team on that side of the bracket. And they, for all intents and purposes, outplayed Denver in this game. They outgained them. I believe they converted over half their third downs. But what cost them is they turned the ball over 5 times, 4 of them by Josh Allen. Allen had that asinine fumble at the end of the first half, which I think ultimately cost the Bills that game. He had the strip sack fumble by Benito. Well, it was Benito, wasn't it? I believe it was Benito. In the yeah, it was. And at to start on the first possession of the second half, he threw an interception after his defense got him an interception. And of course, you had the controversial interception in overtime, the Brandon Cooks, Jaquan McMillan play. Personally, I think the officials made the right call. But obviously, people in Western New York seem to disagree. Nobody cries more after losing a playoff game than Bills fans. It's unbelievable. And their players for that matter. But this was of all the playoff exits in the Allen McDermott era, and trust me, I will let Lucas talk at one point. This to me is the worst, and it's not even close. I know they're the 6 seed, and you say, "Oh, is a 6 seed losing to a?" This is different. The Broncos are not your typical 1 seed. The Bills, by most advanced metrics, were better than your typical 6 seed, and I think them firing Dermott was the right move because something had to change, and we'll see who their new head coach is. But Josh Allen going to his age 30 season with no Super Bowl appearances, given his individual success, is pretty jarring.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow if you're Buffalo. I I saw people say this online. There was a couple on tweet that went viral that this game was of all like the Bills like bad playoff losses, this one was probably the least on McDermott. Like
I
not saying
know that's the
McDermott has,
crazy part.
yeah, and I'm not saying that McDermott has like no part of the blame pie. I mean, the fact they didn't kneel it out at the end of the first half and allowing Allen to fumble is he has to accept some of that responsibility. There was like 15 seconds left and they had no timeouts. You gotta be perfect. It's not like you have a timeout. It's like, okay, maybe they can get like 15, 20 yards and then run another play. Pretty reckless call, but it ended up costing him. But I put more blame on Allen for acting that reckless in the first place. But and I actually agree about I agree about the interception, like in overtime. Like that was a pick. Bills fans saying, well, he was technically down. Like, no, he didn't complete the process of the catch. And a good way to think about it is if Jaquan McMillan was not there, it would have been ruled incomplete. But so the fact that McMillan was there does not change the fact that Cooks did not complete the process of the catch. And he dropped the ball, and it was a pick. Allen, I thought had his moments in this game. I don't think he was rancid like people think because he did have his positives, but at the same time,
Yeah, he did.
He like he was the most responsible individual in this game for Buffalo losing. Like that's just a fact. Like the fact that people are out there like Dan Orlovsky like completely absolving him of any accountability is shameful, and it does Josh Allen no good to keep coddling him. And I do believe the narrative online is starting to turn, and there are a lot of like the people who were previous like Chiefs haters, so they were like gassing up the Bills, but now the Chiefs aren't there. They're kind of like exposing Buffalo, being like, okay, they're separating themselves from like the Bills, the true Bills and Josh Allen Glazers, and the people who are like slightly more objective, are like, okay, come on, like, gotta stop the Allen coddling. It's insane. He like, even if you want to ignore like the fumble, like at the end of the first half, which was egregious. He had the game on his hands, and he missed him. He missed. I don't know if it was Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox.
It was Dawson Knox. He was open. It would have been the game winning touchdown. He overthrew him.
That was it.
On
Like
third
that
down.
was more egregious than the fumble, just because it was in a bigger moment. Like if he makes that throw, they very likely win that game, and like nobody cares about the fumble. So that was a more consequential play, but the fumble itself was more stupid. And in terms of Sean McDermott, like, I have like a mixed opinion. I don't blame them for firing McDermott in a vacuum, but the problem is, why in the world was Bean not there with him? Like, like it seems like Brandon Bean was able to convince Terry Pagula to take his side in this kind of dispute. I don't agree with. I think they both should have been gone, but maybe Terry Pagula was so scared of like starting completely from scratch that he didn't want to fire both. But I disagree. But I also think Sean McDermott, for some of the sympathy he deserves for this game not being his fault, he probably cost himself all that sympathy when he was whining like a baby about the call.
Yeah.
That
I'm
was
standing
correct.
up for
Like the
Buffalo,
fact,
damn it. He's standing up for Buffalo, Lucas. He's standing up for the city of Buffalo for the
if,
correct
if it
call.
was a more if it was a more controversial call, then like maybe that can work. But at the same time, bro, it was objectively the correct call. Like there's no
Mm,
ifs, ands, or buts. If that was flipped, no one would be complaining on Buffalo's side because it was the correct call. So it cost him all sympathy. I think McDermott will get another job. I don't think it'll be this cycle, but I do think he'll get another job next year and he'll deserve it. But I think time has run its course in Buffalo. There's a famous stat where every single coach quarterback combo to ever win a Super Bowl in NFL history had done so within their first 5 years together. And this is
yes.
year 8 for Allen and McDermott. So I know for a couple of years they're probably not going to win a Super Bowl. Same thing with Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. But yeah, I have some sympathy for Bills fans. It's a tough loss, and it's the worst loss you could argue. Not the game itself. Like I think 13 seconds was more egregious and tough to swallow alone. But in terms of like the bigger picture, this is their year. Like the field was
Yeah.
open. This is as wide clean of a path as they're ever going to get. Like I don't care about where they play the games. Like in terms of opponents, this was their best shot, and they blew it. And I think Bills fans are aware of that. Like I think they were kind of trying to cope, saying, "Well, it's not our best roster, so we're not really under any pressure." I think the ones who live in reality know that was bullshit the entire time. They were under pressure. They failed. I have some sympathy for McDermott, not a lot. In terms of Denver, like I'll give them credit. They won the game. Like Bo Nix broke his ankle, but
We'll get to that
they're
later.
not
We'll
going.
get
They're
to that
probably
here
not.
in a bit.
Yeah, yeah. They're just to keep it in Buffalo. Like full credit to Denver, but Buffalo, you're going to be losing sleep over this game for a long time, like they have over a lot of their previous playoff losses.
And look, I know the Chiefs had a terrible season this year. I think there will be some people in the Chiefs fandom that are going to have a fun time with the Bills this offseason because I don't know, man. To have an Allen, I think of all their playoff losses, I think this is the one he's most responsible for. You could argue the Bengals game in 2022, but I mean, they didn't really have much of a chance in that game. Their offensive line got destroyed. Their defense couldn't stop the Bengals offense at all. This game, like if he just first of all, like I said, that throw to Dawson Knox, he missed him wide open. If he makes that throw, Prater doesn't have to kick that 50-yard field goal, which he made to get to overtime to begin with, and they win in regulation. And another quietly ignored play was on the drive where they kicked the field goal to extend their lead to 4. It was third down, and Allen absolutely dirts a screen pass to Khalil Shakir that would have been a touchdown because we literally saw like Shakir picked up the ball, he ran to the end zone for the touchdown. Maybe the Denver players saw that it hit the ground, so they didn't pursue as hard. But that play, that screen pass to Shakir was really effective, has been really effective for quite some time. So there's a chance that bare minimum, if Allen makes a better throw, he gets a first down there. So look, Allen he made some really nice plays. He did throw 3 touchdowns, but when you turn the ball over 4 times, it's hard to win a playoff game on the road against. I mean, say what you want about the Broncos, that's a 14-win team right there, and they're going to take advantage of those opportunities. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think Brandon Beane should have been fired. I think the Bills roster has deteriorated. Now, there have been some years where Beane has built a good enough roster to win the Super Bowl, primarily in 2021, 2022. But the last couple of years, like their drafting has not been good. They have not been as aggressive in trades and free agency as you'd like. They sign guys who are well past their prime. So Brandon Beane, I think if McDermott's gone, he should have been gone too. So I think it's a little bit of a half-assed approach by Terry Pagula. Either they both stay and you try to run it back, which I think would have been a grave mistake, or you rip the band-aid off and start anew and say, this is not working. If we're not going to do it this year with this regime, we're never going to do it. I think like half-assing it's a little bit short-sighted. Um, I think it's likely they hire an offensive minded coach, whether it's Clint Kubiak, whether that is Nate Scheelhaus is getting some buzz, the passing game coordinator for the Rams, young candidate. We've heard some Brian Daboll rumors because obviously Allen really broke out under him. Obviously, Daboll's coaching resume is pretty spotty outside of one season. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Of course, we'll cover it. Let's go to the Broncos because I think it's fair to talk about the team that won. As disappointing as the Bills were, the Broncos won. They host the AFC Championship game, but of course, Bo Nix. We found out after the game, well after the game. It was about in midways of the second quarter of the Seattle San Francisco game. Bo Nix fractured his ankle. He's out for the rest of the season, so he'll be regardless of when they get to the Super Bowl or not. He will not play again this year. He will not start the AFC Championship game. He will not start the Super Bowl. The quarterback that will do that is Jarrett Stidham. And Jarrett Stidham has a very minuscule resume in the NFL. Like Jarrett Stidham has started just 4 games. He has been in the league for a while. He's been in the league since 2019. He was in New England, ironically, his first 3 years. He went to the Raiders for a year, started a couple games at the end of the season there when they moved on from Derek Carr. And then he's been in Denver. This is his 3rd year in Denver. He's been in Denver since Peyton's been there. He's been their primary backup ever since Sean Payton's been their coach. He started 2 games, the final 2 games of the 2023 season, when Russell Wilson got benched at the end of the year, but has not thrown a pass since week 18 of 2023. The last pass that Jarrett Stidham attempted in a game of consequence was January 7th of 2024. All of his action since then has been handoffs in garbage time, kneel downs, basically nothing that matters. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. We'll obviously do the preview on Thursday. But as for the Broncos in this game, look, honest to God, Lucas, I think it's a shame Bo Nix got hurt because I think of the 8 quarterbacks that played this weekend, I think he was the best. I think Bo Nix had the best quarterback performance this weekend. Honest to God, given the circumstances, I think that was the most impressive game of his career. He made that great, perfectly thrown ball to Marvin Mims for the go-ahead touchdown in regulation. The game-winning drive in overtime was a little fluky because it was a lot of pass interference, but as he did for most of the year, he came alive in the fourth quarter. He made throws when he needed to. I think he made one bad throw to Dion, the interception that he threw to Deon Walker. That was really the only egregious mistake he made in this game. But I thought he soundly outplayed Allen. And it's a shame that his season's over because if he could have played like that, I mean, Denver could have at least gotten to the Super Bowl. Who knows if they beat the Rams or Seattle? But look, they deserve to win. Like they turned over Buffalo 5 times. I think Peyton did a good job, coaching for the most part. I thought some of his play calling was a little questionable, but Denver deserves credit for finding a way to win that football game at home. And there's a reason they'll be hosting the Patriots next week. So, Lucas, what are your thoughts on the Broncos? I think weirdly enough, the Bills outplayed them, but that doesn't matter in January because the Broncos ultimately they found a way to win and they're moving on.
It's a shame. I don't have any sympathy for Broncos fans that they're probably going to lose this game, but I do have a lot of sympathy for Bo Nix.
Yeah.
I actually think Jarrett Stidham's like a more capable backup than people think. I
don't really know much about him if I'm being honest. I've never watched any of his starts live
well, I was mainly basing off I was kind of a fan of him coming out when he came out a few years ago. Not like he could be like a high end starter, but hey, if you're just looking to take a shot on a high floor backup that could maybe start a few games, Stidham could have been your guy in the 4th round. I think the Patriots did that. It was the Patriots. Yeah, so
it was New England, yes.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good revenge game. So
exactly,
I think this could be I think it's going to be a more interesting game versus New England, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. You got to give full credit to Denver. They won this game. Well, I know Bo Nix got hurt, but that had no effect on the outcome, of course, because it was basically on the last real play of the game. So give credit to Sean Payton. He managed a good game. He can't say he outcoached Sean McDermott by a ton, but his team won, so give him credit. He did, and to be fair, I'm not a big fan of Sean Payton personally. I just think he's a bit of a blowhard, but it is what it is. But full credit to Denver. Yeah, still full credit to Denver. They impressed me in this game. Still not 100% sold on them as a contender, even if they do win versus the NFC team, even if they had a healthy Bo Nix in the Super Bowl. I still think they would get crushed, but now if they do somehow beat New England, I still think they're going to get crushed. I'm more confident doing so, but yeah, credit to Denver. We'll see what happens this weekend. They played much better than expected. Bo Nix was outstanding. Got to give him credit. Maybe we got to start giving him more credit in general as a better player. But, yeah, nothing much else to say. credit to Denver, Bo Nix, and Bo Nix will be in my thoughts, or his ankle will be.
Yeah. I feel awful for Bo Nix, of course he came there. They had low expectations. They get a surprise playoff berth his first year. And this year, like, I don't think he played that great for the most part of the season, but they found ways to win games. They go 14-3, they get the 1 seed, and he gets his first playoff win. And for that to happen, it's crushing. It's absolutely crushing. So we'll see if the Broncos can pull a 2017 Eagles. So a little bit more background on Jarrett Stidham before we move on to our next game, and we'll talk about him more on Thursday. He's 29 years old. He's on his third team. He's thrown 197 passes in his career. He's completed 59% of his passes. He's thrown 8 touchdowns to 8 picks, so dead even there. He's thrown for 1,422 yards and a quarterback rating of 78.3. So not great numbers, obviously a small sample size. And he's playing a New England team that have felt is the most complete team in the AFC for the most of the season. Them and the Bills were my two favorites, and obviously only one of them survived. So look, we'll preview that, but Jarrett Stidham is now a starting quarterback in an AFC champ. Jarrett Stidham has started as many AFC championship games or conference championship games for that matter as Lamar Jackson, which is pretty wild to think about. Pretty wild to think about when you really comprehend that. But kudos to the Broncos. They move on, they win at home. And for the Bills, like that's awful. That's one you're thinking about for a long time. All right, Lucas, we don't need to spend a lot of time on this one. Seahawks Niners, we both predicted this one correctly. I thought it'd be a little closer than 41-6, but this game really was literally over from the opening kickoff when Rashid Shaheed ran back the kickoff for a touchdown, and that was as good as it got for the Niners, was kicking that ball off because they never got back into it. There was a stretch there where it was like somewhat close, like 17-6. Seattle bogged down a little bit offensively. The Niners got a couple field goals, but they couldn't punch it in the end zone. And then the second half, like the avalanche just completely came to be. Seattle, I just think the Niners, they ran out of gas. I think the Kittle injury was too much for them to overcome. They had guys out there who frankly should have no business being on the field in an NFL divisional round game. And it really reared its head against a rested Seattle team. The Niners have played Seattle 2 of the last 3 weeks, and they've scored 9 combined points in those games, which is insane. So the Seahawks win. Sam Darnold really didn't need to do anything in this game. I mean, he had less than 100 passing yards midway through the third quarter. He threw 1 touchdown to JSN. Kenneth Walker had a day. He had 3 rushing touchdowns. Obviously, Shaheed had the punt return. Seattle's defense was dominant. They got after Purdy all game. They had very little, they allowed very little throwing lanes. I think the biggest takeaway is that, look, Seattle's obviously a great team, a really good football team. They had to win this. This was a borderline unlosable game for the Seahawks. They got it done. They were dominant. They're also even more rested. I mean, Drew Lock played most of the fourth quarter because they were up by so much. And my biggest takeaway, not to take anything away from the Seahawks, was that the Niners there's only so much you can overcome, and they ran out of gas. Like the Kittle thing was the last straw, and the Seahawks took full advantage.
You're absolutely right. Though we picked this game correctly, I thought San Francisco would cover the +7, and I was pretty confident. So, got to take the L there. But yeah, the right team won this game. Seattle was much superior. I just thought Kyle Shanahan would have made a bigger difference, but I don't. This game wasn't his fault. It was more like
No.
It was time.
They're not even close this game without him, so I can't put this on Shanahan.
Well, it was 40. Okay. Oh, you meant they weren't going to make this game.
They were going to be in that game without him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said this game wouldn't have been close without him.
Oh God,
are you
no.
sure about that?
Not close, regardless.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, but yeah, I think full credit to Seattle. I think still called the Rams the best team in the NFC prior to the playoffs. Like, I now think Seattle's better. Whether that means I'll pick them, I haven't decided yet. I still have no idea, but full credit to Seattle. Seattle's a monster. They're going to be tough to beat in the NFC Championship game. We're going to get a great title game on Sunday, and whoever comes out in the NFC is going to be hard to beat. Seattle, they're going to be tough. If they win, if Seattle wins, we're guaranteed a Super Bowl rematch. Though it's the second game, so we're not.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
yes, because Seattle played New England in the Super Bowl and played Denver, and actually they're two previous Super Bowl appearances. So it'll be a kind of like, and ironically, if they win this game against the Rams, it'll be a another Pete. They'll play the same. It'll be a rematch of one of the Pete Carroll Super Bowls. So Mike Macdonald could already be surpassing Pete Carroll as a coach very shortly. But yeah, not much to say, but as it's in Seattle, like obviously he has to win like more than one Super Bowl, but like
Oh yeah, yeah,
he's getting close. Like Pete Carroll, like it's getting close with Carroll. But I think Carroll may have benefited from better rosters than Mike McDonald has. I think Mike McDonald has done a better job elevating than
for
Pete
sure.
Carroll did. But okay, off that topic. But yeah, full credit to Seattle, San Francisco. You have my sympathy. I was rooting for you, but it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, I thought it would have been pretty cool for the Niners to win this game. And look, Shanahan and Saleh, like I mean, of course, Saleh now in Tennessee, but I think the coaching job that those two did this year, it was the best in the NFL across the season. Like what that team overcame. I mean, you have three Hall of Famers on IR in this game, and Kittle and Warner and Bosa. Look, Purdy did not play well, but like it was a pretty difficult situation for him to play well in this one. Obviously, he's really struggled against Mike McDonald defenses throughout his career. So I probably should have taken that into account when picking the spread for this game. Like my thing with the Seahawks, this is going to sound unfair because like he won his first playoff game. I still have my doubts about Darnold in a game in which he actually has to like do something because it's hard to I mean, the last three games for the Seahawks that Darnold's played, the opposing quarterback threw for 54 yards against Carolina. Bryce Young threw for 54 yards in that game. And then his defense has allowed 9 combined points. And I feel fairly confident that the Rams, even with their bit, with how shaky they've been on offense in this postseason, I think they'll put up a better fight than San Francisco did. So like Darnold to me is still the biggest holdup with this Seahawks team. Him in a close spot, him when the defense forces him to make throws, forces him to beat them. They also lost Zach Charbonnet for the season. That's not ideal. Kenneth Walker is still awesome, but he's really the only guy in the backfield at this point where he and Charbonnet were a really nice 1-2 punch. But Lucas, this Seahawks team, it's really interesting because like our preseason Seahawks takes could not have aged any worse. Literally, you could put like all of our preseason Seahawks takes and put that on old takes exposed. I thought they were going to be awful this year. And look, they're 2 wins away from me being comfortable saying they're one of the more complete teams I've seen in a while in terms of how technically sound they are on defense and how multifaceted they are on offense with Walker running the ball and JSN having the season that he's had. Their offensive line has performed better than I expected them to. So I was wrong about this team in the preseason. And look, they've built a really good team out there. They're gonna have a tough one on Sunday. But obviously they have the home field advantage, and that place obviously, as many teams know, as the Niners found out, is not easy to go in and win a game.
Yep, exactly. I don't think I've been more wrong about a team heading into a season in the past few years than I was about Seattle. I thought they were going to be like a 7-10, 8-9 team, and they're
I had them at 5-12.
yeah,
I had
you're
them,
you're more incorrect than I was, but
I was worse than you, yeah.
actually no, I take that back. I was wrong. I was wrong. Like I don't know why I said that. Like I was wrong about Seattle. I wasn't that wrong. I was more wrong about another team in that division this year in the
Uh,
opposite direction. So that
yeah.
that team may or may not play in the state of Arizona. So yeah, I'm impressed with Seattle. Like I just did not expect this. I thought Darnold would crumple under an offensive line that I don't think is very good, but Seattle's offensive line has held up, and Sam Darnold has held up for the most part. He's been hasn't been terrible enough to cost them a game so far, but maybe that happens this weekend. But we'll find out shortly.
We shall see. And look, Darnold, obviously, I made a joke with you, like nothing against Darnold, but like, I mean, him playing for the Jets has gotten the football gods to repay him for playing. Last year, he played on a team full of Pro Bowlers with Kevin O'Connell as his coach. This year, he plays on a team full of Pro Bowlers with Mike McDonald as his coach. So you play for the Jets, you get repaid by the football gods. I'm excited to see Zach Wilson quarterback a 15-2 juggernaut in 3 years from now, as repentance from the football gods. All right, that game was the most uneventful of the weekend. The Seahawks, that game was over really before it even started. The Niners, they deserve a lot of credit for their season, but they go home. And let's move on to the games on Sunday. The Patriots and the Texans, a sloppy, rainy, gross football game. The weather was awful. The play on the field was very, very sloppy. And the Patriots win at home. I got this one wrong. I thought the Texans defense would carry them to victory. They tried to, but CJ Stroud had other ideas. We'll get to Stroud here later on. But the Patriots win 28-16. They go to their first AFC Championship game since the 2018 season. So Drake May wins his first two playoff starts. And I think the biggest story to me is the play of Stroud to start. But New England's defense, I think, deserves a lot of credit this postseason run. They hold Justin Herbert and the Chargers to 3 points in an entire game. So I don't care what you think about Justin Herbert. I don't care about the Chargers having a questionably built offense. You hold an NFL team to 3 points in a playoff game. You deserve a lot of credit. In this game, they forced 5 turnovers. Like the Patriots don't have a lot of stars on defense, really any besides Christian Gonzalez, but they all do their jobs. They all know exactly what to do, which is a benefit of having a guy like Mike Vrabel in there as their head coach. And Carlton Davis looks like a really good signing from the Lions. I like that signing from the get-go. He had 2 interceptions in this game. Marcus Jones, who's been a big play guy his entire career there as a returner and a corner, had a pick six, which I think really kind of broke the dam for Houston. And they overcame another uneven performance from Drake May. Drake May made some really nice throws. He threw 3 touchdowns, which against this Texans defense is impressive. He also fumbled the ball 4 times, losing 2 of them. Now, part of that might be the conditions, but May also had 2 turnovers against the Chargers. So Drake May has regressed from his regular season performance in these first 2 playoff games, but he's made just enough plays to where with the way his defense performed, they've been able to get the job done, and which is why they're playing on Championship Sunday against Denver. But let's talk about Houston and let's talk about CJ Stroud. Actually, before we do that, what are your thoughts on the Pats, Lucas? How impressed are you with them playing good complementary football, where their offense maybe is making more mistakes than you'd like, but their defense is there to pick them up?
I'm impressed with New England. I don't think they're a great team, but at the same time, like they're
They're
winning. Like
16-3. They're doing something
yeah,
right. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Yeah.
they're not overwhelming, but like they're the third highest graded team by PFF this year. So like they're the fourth highest, but highest in the AFC. So I guess you could say they belong here. I still kind of buy into the soft schedule narrative, but they win football games. Like that's the goal of playing sports is to win the game, and they do that at a very high level. I still don't 100% buy into them, but they're winning. They're impressing me. Drake May has not impressed me in the playoffs so far, but I think they're favored this weekend against Denver. But you can't argue since they lost to the Steelers in week 3. This has been you can make an argument the best team in football, if not the second best team in football, if you just remove the first 3 weeks where they
Yeah, they
were
started off
below
slow and then they've
average.
just gotten rolling. I mean, they started 1-2.
Yeah.
And they've lost once. And in that game, they led 21-0 against Buffalo. Like you could argue they should have won that game. May, like I said, he threw 3 touchdowns, all great catches, by the way. The first one was a 4th down call, a really good call by Mike Vrabel. Pop Douglas has a nice catch and run. The second one was a really good catch by Stephon Diggs. And the third one, Kayshon Boutte made one of the best catches I've ever seen in a playoff game. Because if you remember, it was 21-16. New England really was struggling offensively for a long stretch there. I believe they had just 6 first downs with like 2 minutes left in the third quarter. May lost one to the end zone on Derek Stingley, obviously one of the better cover corners in the league. And Kayshon Boutte, who's really come into his own this season after looking pretty underwhelming through the first 2 years, makes an absolutely circus catch. I mean, I've been watching football, coherently for about 17 years now. That's one of the better catches I've seen in a big spot. But the one that Kayshon Boutte made, because if he doesn't make that catch, like it's a 4 point game or a 5 point game, it gets a little dicey. But that's the game that really put the dagger in the heart of the Texans. Was that snag by Boutte?
You could say that was a big play by Booty or a big play Booty or
Alrighty,
big Booty
okay.
moment. So uh, that's a sign of a championship team where not very high known players or high or elite players make elite plays. The Chiefs have done that for years, like with Marcos Valdez-Scantling making that huge catch against Baltimore.
Hmm.
L'Jarius Sneed, you could argue, was a superstar when he knocked the ball out. Leo Chanel forced a fumble against Christian McCaffrey in the Super Bowl against the 49ers. So so New England is getting similar things as well. The fact that they've won 2 playoff games and their quarterback has been below average is a good sign. Though they have played soft competition, it's still a playoff game. They're still playing teams that are pretty talented. So credit to them. We'll move on to Houston now because
Yeah, we got to
it's
talk
not going to
about
be much of conversation.
CJ Stroud because woof. That's all I have to say about CJ Stroud. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, all in the first half, including a pick six to Marcus Jones. 3 of the 4 interceptions, clearly his fault. One of them you could argue it hits Xavier Hutchinson in the hands. Craig Woodson picks the ball off. Okay, fine. But against the Steelers in the wild card, CJ Stroud was very, very bad in that game. But they got away with it because the Texans defense just completely overpowered Pittsburgh's offense. But that game, even with how great the Texans defense was playing, the game was 10-6 in the fourth quarter. And then, of course, Will Anderson strip sacks Aaron Rodgers. They run it back for a touchdown. And that really put the knife in the heart of the Steelers. But CJ Stroud, we have to have some really, really uncomfortable conversations because this is a guy who came in as a rookie on a team that was dog shit for 3 years. And he plays really well. He wins Rookie of the Year. He leads them to a great, impressive playoff win against the Browns. He played awesome in that game. And you can scoff and say it's the Browns. The Browns that year had statistically the best defense in football, or one of the best defenses in football, and Stroud lit him up like a Christmas tree. And then, they go to Baltimore. They lose to a really outstanding Ravens team. Okay, fine. He had an outstanding rookie season. And you're going to say this guy is going to be a top 5 quarterback in short order. This guy is already one of the better signal callers in the league. But the last 2 years, woof. I mean, last year, I thought he played okay. Because their offensive line was really bad. The receivers outside of Nico Collins were really bad because Diggs got hurt. Tank Dell obviously got hurt. He still led them to a playoff win against the Chargers where, look, he wasn't great in that game, but he was fine. And they went to Kansas City. They put up a decent fight against the Chiefs. Ultimately, they don't get it done. But this year, again, the regular season, by a lot of advanced metrics, he was like middle of the road. Like, he wasn't bad, but he was just kind of like whatever. Again, he threw just 19 touchdowns. But in this postseason run, 5 fumbles, 5 interceptions. And Stroud's eligible for an extension this offseason. I would even consider it. I'm not saying to trade him. I'm not saying to get rid of him unless you can like somehow find an upgrade, like if Joe Burrow becomes available or Lamar Jackson somehow becomes available. Probably unlikely in both scenarios. So Stroud more than likely is going to be the Texans quarterback in 2026, but he's got to prove that he's worthy of being a long-term answer because based on what we've seen the last 2 seasons, and particularly this playoff run, I don't think he's earned that. He single-handedly cost the Texans this game. If he plays bad, if he plays below average, they would have won. They're going to Denver next week, and he was unable to do it. So CJ Stroud once looked like a future star in the league, now looks like a guy who is not even, an average at best quarterback. And that's at best, like maybe even below average based on what we've seen. And it's an unfortunate trajectory for him.
I have to be honest, like this legitimately may have been the worst playoff game start to finish by a quarterback who started and finished the game in the playoffs since Carson Palmer in the 2015 NFC Championship game. Like I can't think of a worse
Carson Palmer, yeah.
Like and then Carson Palmer, like they have oddly similar games. Like looking at PFF, Carson Palmer had a 27.0 grade in that game, 0 big time throws. I don't think you know this. We'll go sidetrack. How many turnover-worthy plays do you think PFF charged Carson Palmer in that game?
0 against Carolina. Throws. It was an NFC Championship against Carolina. He threw 4 picks, didn't he? I know Kuechly had a pick 6 in that game. I'll say 9.
You were close. It was 8. Like,
oh my god,
like that's like it's you got to like almost be trying to turn the ball over. You 8 turnover-worthy plays. C.J. Stroud was at a 27.3 grade, 0 big time throws, 6 turnover-worthy plays. Like that's I can't even comprehend how bad that is. And I always thought C.J. Stroud was overrated. Like even after his rookie year, people were crowning him. I was like, oh, he's a top 6 quarterback. I'm like, nah, he was good.
No.
But like
I had him like 9th or 10th. I had him like bottom of the top 10 after that season.
Yeah, but some people were glazing him like that's just nuts. But in the last 2 years, he hasn't earned it. He just hasn't been good enough. That's just a fact. And it was almost sad how bad he was against the Patriots. Like it was just sad. Like he had an adjusted completion percentage of 51%. That's adjusted. That's like accounting for like drops, hit throwaways, and hit as he was thrown. He was inaccurate on 49% of his passes. That's impossible for an NFL quarterback. Like that's just how do you do that in 2025 or 2026? I would be somewhat willing to sign him to an extension, but it has to be on like the Texans' terms. Like if CJ Stroud wants to get a bag, he has to take a big discount. Like, he cannot sign
Yeah.
a $60 million per year contract that's mostly guaranteed. It has to be like 45, $50 million in like a 4 or 5 year deal, and with not a ton of guarantees that would give the Texans ability to cut him after like 2027. So like, if he wants to get a contract, he's going to have to do it closer to Houston's terms, or he could play it out next year. And if he stinks again next year in key moments, Houston might just have to punt and just find a new guy. But I think he'll have a 5th-year option. They'll accept the 5th-year option, of course. But
Yeah, that's probably the most likely outcome. And it's crazy to think like there's a real debate of like who the best quarterback of that class was. Did the Panthers make the right pick by taking Bryce Young? Um, I would still take Stroud over Bryce Young. I'm pretty low on Bryce Young, but like it's closer than people think. Like Stroud is like what, maybe the 19th best quarterback in the league at this point, or I'd put Bryce Young in that, 23, 24 range. The fact that it's close after the rookie seasons they had, respectively, is pretty wild. It's pretty insane to think about. And Bryce Young for the last year and a half has been better statistically. Look, I don't think either one of those guys are very good, but I never thought it would be close after 2023. Yeah, Stroud was the reason the Texans lost. There's no way getting around it. And you got to give some credit to the Patriots defense. I mean, the Patriots defense is responsible for the 2 worst quarterback performances this postseason in Stroud and Herbert. Is that fair to say? I mean, Rodgers against Houston, you could put in there, but like 2 of the 3 worst quarterback performances this postseason. I would argue that the 2 worst performances were CJ and Herbert, and it was against the Patriots defense. So Mike Vrabel, Zach Kerr, and that defense deserve some credit. But I got to be honest, like, yes, the Patriots defense played well. A lot of it was CJ Stroud just having absolutely zero confidence in what he was doing. And if you're a Broncos fan, you have Jarrett Stidham, a guy who hasn't played a consequential game in over 2 years, against a defense that made Justin Herbert, who's a very good quarterback, look awful, and CJ Stroud, who has shown flashes of being a very good quarterback, look even worse. So Jarrett Stidham's not, the track record's not working well in his favor. But look, New England, they got the job done. They got it done at home. They overcame the elements. That game is anyone who wants to argue football's been played in a dome can get bent. That game was a very good viewing experience. And look, Drake Mays need to play a little better. He's got to take better care of the football. But ultimately, he overcame 2 really good defenses in the Chargers and Houston. So we'll see if he can pick it up against Denver in that pass rush. So he might be in for a long one. We'll preview it on Thursday. And the Texans. One more thing on the Texans. I think it's a real shame that defense didn't even get to a conference championship. I mean, that's one of the best defenses I've seen in quite some time. And ultimately, nobody's going to really remember the 2025 Texans defense because they won just one playoff game. That's the unfortunate reality.
yeah, you're right. Like, that Texans defense was like almost winning games by itself. You can make an argument they purely won the Steelers game by itself. Like,
Yeah,
the offense could have spiked the ball every play and they still would have won. Like, just insanity. Like you said, like at the beginning of the segment, if CJ Stroud was like below average, like well below average in this game, they probably win, or at least it's at least competitive. And D'Amico Ryan's and punting down 2 possessions with 4
Yeah,
minutes left in the game.
that was disgusting. Like I like D'Amico Ryans. I think he's a really good coach. I mean, I get Stroud's been awful, and I get it's 4th and 16, buddy. It's the play. What are you doing? But it just
Like,
shows like
I
how
think he
little
did something like
confidence he
that
had in
last
the
year
offense.
too. I think he did something like that last year. Did he not? Like, I thought, or maybe not even
I
in the
mean, we should
playoffs. Like,
remember it was against our team.
I'll
I
check.
think
Like,
he did at the end of the game.
maybe. Like, I'll check it now. Like, I'll check it now. Like, maybe when we're talking about the next game, I'll bring it up randomly. But I
Okay.
feel like
All right.
that's not the first time he's pulled that crap. But like, that's just I don't care if it's 4th and 16. You're down 2 possessions, 4 minutes left to go in the game. I even though you have no faith in CJ Stroud, you gotta at least like hope like a defensive holding penalty or something like that. Like, you're more likely to do that to win betting on a penalty than you are punting. That's just insanity. But D'Amico Ryan
Oh,
knows more than I do, so what do I know?
yeah. And one more thing on Stroud. I agree. A lot of people said, oh, you need to bench him for Davis Mills. Here's my argument. I think you could make an argument they should have. But if they benched him in a playoff game, I feel like that's to the point of no return. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
says, but I don't know. It's a very tough situation because they probably should have benched him. But if you bench him in a playoff game for Davis Mills and they win, it gets really bad. You know, I mean, it becomes a really murky situation because who the hell starts the AFC Championship game? But if they lose, it's like, okay, like you showed, you know, you bench this guy in a playoff game. Like, what do you do next year? Like, how do you go to him as the starter next year? So I agree with them keeping him in because if they benched him, it would have created some really awkward conversations, regardless of the outcome. But woof, like that was rough to watch. CJ Stroud's gonna have to take a long look in the mirror this offseason because he wasted an outstanding defense. All right, that puts a bow in that game. Very unfortunate for the Texans. I thought they'd win. I thought they'd get it done. The Texans remain the only NFL franchise to never make it to a conference championship. That continues. They are now 0-7 in the divisional round in Houston. So let's go to the last game. I think this was the most entertaining game of the weekend, particularly the last 5 minutes. The Rams go into Chicago and knock off the Bears. They're the only road team to win this weekend. 20-17, they win in overtime. Kind of a quiet game for the first three quarters. It was 10-10 after three. Both offenses were really struggling. The Rams definitely looked to be affected by the cold to some degree. Stafford looked like he was bothered to some degree. He was inaccurate at some throws. He had trouble moving around, which is to be expected from a 38-year-old quarterback in those conditions. But the fourth quarter was absolute fireworks. So the Rams finally get it going. They finally get a drive together. They go down the field. Kyron Williams runs in a touchdown to go up 17-10, and the Bears get the ball back, and they drive down the field. They run it on third down, and DeAndre Swift gets absolutely suplexed by Quentin Lake. And so obviously they're going to go for it on fourth down. They do. Williams throws. Omar Spates, the linebacker for the Rams, knocks the ball away and turns the Bears over on downs. And I'm like, oh, this game's over. It's going to be 17-10. The Rams are going to chew the clock. They're going to win the game. They're on to Seattle. But then Sean McVay, and I kid you not. So the Rams obviously start in really bad field position. Kyron Williams runs for a first down. So they get one first down. And then they run two more times just to chew the clock because the Bears only had one timeout left. And then on third, I believe 3rd and 8, Sean McVay, I kid you not, Lucas, made one of the most cowardly coaching decisions or play calls I've ever seen. It's 3rd and 8, a first down wins the game. Like you get a first down, you win the game 17-10, you move on. He runs it up the middle with the likely MVP at quarterback, and they get no yards. They punt the ball back to the Bears, and of course that leads to, even though they lost, a play that will be talked about for a long, 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 long time. It's fourth down, fourth in season for Chicago. There's less than 20 seconds left in the game. So if they don't get this conversion, they lose. Caleb Williams runs about 20 yards towards his own end zone, pirouettes, lofts the ball to the corner of the end zone, and places it perfectly to Cole Kmet for the game-tying touchdown over the outstretched arm of Kobe Durant. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I'm like, holy shit, this team fucking did it again. They've pulled a win out of their ass again. And we'll talk about this. Ben Johnson, I think pretty controversially, kicks a PAT to send it to overtime. And the Rams get the ball. They do nothing with it. The Bears get the ball. They're near midfield. They're pretty close to field goal range. And then Caleb, live by the sword, die by the sword, throws an interception. And there was some debate whether DJ Moore gave up on the route. Regardless, Cameron Curl, who was incredible in this game, picks the ball off. The Rams get it. Stafford comes alive, makes some really nice throws, makes an absolutely insane throw to Devontae Adams for a first down. And then Harrison Mevis kicks the game-winning field goal, puts the dagger in the heart of the Bears fans. So the Bears' magic carpet ride dream season comes to an end, and the Rams move on. And look, the Rams, obviously, we were very high on this Rams team throughout the year. I've been of the belief that they're the best team in football throughout the season when they play their very best. They really have not played at their potential since they blew that game in Seattle. But ultimately, they found a way to get it done. They win a gritty game in a tough environment and weather that they're not used to playing in, and they're going to the NFC Championship game. So kudos to the Rams. Like, that's a gritty, gutty win where it looked like they had that game lost on multiple occasions, specifically when the Bears were driving in overtime. But you got to give a lot of credit to Chris Shula and that defense for holding up. Because they made timely stop after timely stop after timely stop, and Stafford did just enough on that last drive to get it done.
Yep, that's correct. Like, I thought Stafford was bad in this game. Like, I flat like
He was not
very
good.
bad in this game.
Yeah,
But he was clutch. But he was
yeah,
clutch. So that like it's almost like with Allen. Like I thought Allen was like pound for pound better than Stafford was, but Stafford was more clutch, which is what mattered most. Like Matthew Stafford made the throws on the game-winning drive. Josh Allen could not. So got to give Stafford more credit, though I think Allen was better. But and I wasn't impressed with Sean McVay in this game. Like
no,
it was
McVay was
like you
awful.
said.
Sean McVay's very lucky they won that game.
Yeah, I think this is just a game where the Rams just won because they had the better players. Like the Rams just have the better horses, and I guess the cayenne pepper in the socks worked because
Yeah,
the Rams won. I mean, give credit to Harrison Beavis for drilling kicks in the cold. As someone who lives in a cold, very cold climate, it's not easy to be outside, much less to
no,
like actually do something as precise as kicking. So full credit to him. But yeah, the Bears, ironically, like I don't think they were awful in this game. Like I don't think
no,
that it was like a full regression of the mean in terms of like, okay, they played like shit and they got dominated. They played all right and they just barely lost a game that was a heartbreaker. But Caleb Williams threw a interception in overtime. It's kind of like forgot what it is. It's almost like Schrodinger's interception, where like some people look, or it's almost like the dress meme from like 11 years ago, where like some people look at it and will blame DJ Moore, other people look at it and blame Caleb Williams. I'll blame Caleb Williams just because I genuinely think it's like mostly his fault, but not 100%. But again, Caleb Williams had his moments. One of the best plays I've missed because I was on a plane 2 minutes before that play happened, so I'm frustrated. Thanks, Sun Country, for not having Wi-Fi because I would have bought Wi-Fi to watch that
Oof.
play or the rest of the game and that play. But it is what it is. But yeah, a great season by Chicago. They got to be disappointed they lost in overtime. I don't really believe in the saying like, oh, like we surpassed expectations, so we're gonna be okay with what happened. Like, no, you need to be disappointed because it's the NFL. You don't
Mhm.
know. Washington fans last year thought like, okay, we're gonna be back, and they were not back. So Chicago needs to keep their foot on the gas. Detroit's gonna be better next year. Green Bay, I would hope, is more consistent. Minnesota, hopefully, will have better quarterback play for my sake. But this is a golden opportunity to at least reach the NFC Championship. They couldn't even do that, but at the same time, great season. Ben Johnson, I think, is a real coach in the NFL. I don't know if he'll ever be like an upper tier one coach, but he's certainly going to be like a top 10 coach one day if he's not already. So credit to him. Caleb Williams still has some stuff to work out, but he's he showed why he was the first overall pick in the draft in a class with Jane Daniels and Drake May. So credit to him. He needs to clean up a few things, but he's going to be a great quarterback in this league.
Yeah, look, I was skeptical about Williams. I thought he was pretty underwhelming last season as a rookie. And even the first half of this season, let's be honest, he was not great, but he really came on in the second half. And look, he's got the clutch gene. There's no doubt about it. Like he makes plays at the biggest moments. Obviously, through the game losing pick. That's not ideal. I think it's shared blame between him and DJ Moore. I don't think Caleb needed to throw that ball. You don't need that many yards to get into field goal range. Cairo Santos is one of the better kickers in the league. Honest to God, I watched a lot of. I don't think I've ever seen Cairo Santos miss. Look, he was not
I
great with the
disagree with
Chiefs.
that.
Okay, but like
I
every time I
I
watch the Bears,
disagree.
Cairo Santos is drilling like a 50-yard field goal every time I watch them.
Jairo
So it's
Santos
just,
does not have that strong of a leg. Like,
yeah,
he's
true.
not that good of a kicker. He's confident, but he's like, I never looked at Jairo Santos like, oh shit, he's gonna drill a kick
Like,
in a big moment.
like he's not,
Like
he's
maybe
not
he
Brandon
does.
Aubrey or
Like,
prime Justin Tucker, but like
yeah,
I
it's
don't know,
disrespectful. I mean, we're arguing about a kicker. Like
true,
what are
yeah,
we doing here? But like, yeah, I'm trying to look up his numbers, but like he's never really that good. Like he's missed like over a third of his kicks above 50 yards in an era where
fair enough.
like 50-yard kicks are like not impossible. So he's a great kicker if it's like, and he's missed. This is going to be a high percentage. I got to do the math. 21. He's missed like 21% of his kicks between 40 and 49 yards. Like
Okay, all
that's
right,
pretty alarming. Like
all right, you win. You win the
anything
argument.
below
You win the
anything
argument.
below 40, he's money. Yeah.
Okay. Thing is, like, whenever I watch Cairo Santos, he's really good. But the point is, they
Yeah.
didn't need that many yards. I don't think Caleb needed to throw the ball, especially on 2nd and 8. Like, it'd be one thing if it was 3rd and long, fine. It's second down. I don't think there's a need to throw it. I also think DJ Moore could have run a better route. Um, I think the fact that the Rams won this game is very impressive because Stafford did not play well again. Stafford kind of quietly, somewhat showing his age the last month, like kind of a
Yep.
little bit. He's really only had one good game in the last 4 games, and that was against the Cardinals. So does it really count? I don't know. We'll see how he does against Seattle. He was great against them last time they played, even though they lost. I thought McVay called a lousy game, but the Chris Shula and the Rams defense bailed them out. I thought their secondary was awesome. I thought their run defense was incredible. The Bears running game is one of the best units in the league. How many times did the Rams stuff them on like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1? So the Rams showed that they can win in adverse situations on the road, tough environment, whether they're not used to, which is why they're moving on. And I agree with you on the Bears. Look, they should be proud of the season they had, but I also think you could view this as, man, like we could have won this game. We could have gone to the NFC Championship, somewhat of a missed opportunity. I do think this is more sustainable than what the Commanders did last year because Ben Johnson's a better coach than Dan Quinn. I think they have a far, far better roster than Washington does. So I do think the Bears like could be around for much longer, but I do think the way in which they won games this year was a little bit unsustainable. And you never know where you're going to get back. The NFL stands for not for long. So it'll be interesting to see how they attack the offseason. Caleb Williams, definitely very talented. Needs to work on his accuracy a little bit, but obviously made some strides. And the Rams are picked to win the Super Bowl in midseason, I believe, and at the start of the postseason. They move on. They are going to Seattle for the second time in a month to take on the Seahawks, and we will preview that game on Thursday. We will also preview the Broncos Patriots game on Thursday. Championship Sunday will be here. We'll also talk about some coaching vacancies being filled. We'll see if there's more that happen between now and then. So that wraps up divisional round weekend. It was a fun weekend. Two really great games. Obviously, kind of an end of an era in Buffalo with them losing that game. Very disappointing end to their season. But ultimately, I think the 4 most consistent teams, maybe not the 4 best teams, but the 4 most consistent teams in football are playing for the right to hoist the Lombardi in 19 days. So that about wraps up. Luke, do you have any parting thoughts before we disperse?
I do not. I cannot wait for these championship games this weekend because I think the NFC game is going to be a classic, but the AFC Championship could be like a quietly good hate watch. Like,
Yeah.
Because either way, like the Broncos are going to lose, and you love to see it since you're a Chiefs fan, or the Patriots, who are another hated team by myself, by both of us when we were younger, are going to potentially lose to Jarrett Stidham. So it's going to be another classic hate watch for Chiefs fans.
I also think Jarrett Stidham getting to a Super Bowl before Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson would be quite something.
Yes, exactly.
So we'll see about that. Should be interesting either way. But that about wraps up. We will see you on Thursday to preview those games. Also give some talk on the coaching vacancies. Thanks, Lucas. See you then.